As you know, in order to get to the web interface, there had to be tools that were made along the way, and a lot of these things that came into your 5.8 to your 6.0 and everything were tools in order to lead up to being able to be used in the web interface. Find and replace were partly, some of the times I needed to move the slashes the other way, so I needed a real quick way to switch slashes because I'm using the web interface. I need to show them a URL type of an address versus the address that was on the server. So a lot of those things came along in order to help speed up that process. But one of the things that we needed was, well, everybody's having Windows-only printers now in our world, so we had to address some way to make that work. So they came up with the PDF. So there's a few different ways that the PDFs can be launched. We'll go over the various ones. At first, in the DOS world, the PDFs have a few options. You have it here in your config file. You can set it up as a printer. You have your the FPLM or FPLM web is the PCL print code table for that. The PDF : that signifies that the filing file is going to be a PDF document instead when it writes to the hard drive. Now, if you don't have that, it will still write down to the file, but it won't be recognized as a PDF document with this code. You then have this option here. The next one has a few capabilities. They have print, which it ends up using the Adobe Reader, and it'll print to the printer after the document. It'll just go through the PDF printer to the document. This option here, it could be print, it could be open, and pop. Is there another one?
Print to.
Print to?
Yep, there's a print to. You can put a printer name.
Okay, I'm not familiar with the print to one. All right.
They do support.
Well, I know that. I just don't use it. But the print will take the results and send it to, if you're on a DOS machine, it will, in character, it will take the results and send it to the Adobe Reader and then send it to the printer. The open is in for character as well, and it will open and launch the PDF document to be able to be viewed on the screen for you to take and edit or do whatever you want, or read it just for an open thing. However, that didn't work for our web interface because obviously I'm not on a Windows PC and it's not local, so that came up with the POP. The POP is kind of a universal one for displaying. As far as your open, you can use POP instead because it'll do the exact same thing.
Only in GI and web.
Only in GI and web, yes, correct, not character. So if you're in character, you have to use the open one. I'm going to follow this here in the syntax of putting this in the printer. As you notice, down here, this one is just writing it as a file. It does not have the additional option to tell it what to do. Going back to this is the path to where the file is going to go, or the directory to where we're storing that PDF. And it will get a random name. I don't know how exactly it's generated, but it'll be a unique name as it goes along. And then you follow that up by the location that the client uses that directory in order to take and pop it up. So in my case, this here is for a web, so it's telling you my server's IP address and its port and location in its folder. That's how it accesses that folder. It carries that file name that it randomly generates, and it will pop it in and place it in both situations. So you don't need to worry about what's that name going to be, because When it gets created, it will be created with a unique name. It will come over here and it'll come up with a unique name. It'll pop up with that same unique name, and it's for you to display and do anything you want.
Are those both basically pointed to the same place?
That
One
is-
is the local folder, and the other
Correct.
is the web address page.
Look at it as two addresses separated by, the two locations addressing the same place, but separated by a semicolon. The first one is, how do I write it to the server, and how do I get to that location? The secondary one is, this is where the client pushes or looks at when it wants to find it.
Write and display, right here, display from here.
Correct. And then you can still do your comments at the end if you know, as far as the comma format in this one PDF pop. Now in this situation here where I don't use the pop, I'm writing that file directly, I'm writing and giving it the name testfile.pdf. It will literally write to the hard drive testfile.pdf, and that's its name.
And override it every time.
Can you use % style environment variables in the pathing
Yes,
for dynamic?
or $.
Yes. And
Can you
Like I said,
override that
if it's
with
hard coded like
programming?
this, it's gonna be overridden every time.
Can you override that with programming, printer, file, give it a different name in the?
Yes.
Yes.
The printer files, when you do a printer file or whatever, if you specify printer file, you have to put the PDF :
Okay,
just like
Just like
anything
the-
else, just like that bomb structure, and saying, as far as what this part is, you have to put that printer file or quote, and that destination will write down to that location.
one other one, when you do the open, can you control what is going to open it? Or is it just rely on the client's default app?
Currently default,
And
default
a support
associated.
note, if you're setting up a new Windows 10, it defaults to Microsoft Edge and it won't work. You have to go and install and do your file association.
Personally, we're finding that there's a lot of plus of using the Adobe Reader over the other viewers because of that.
You know, I noticed that when you don't define the printer in the output, it gives you all the PDF you want, everywhere. Never have those limitations. Like on any output, where it says printer name, if you leave it in blank, if you put laser, then you can have trouble. But if you just leave it in blank, it prints all outputs in PDF and without any problem.
Yeah, it'll default to your system printer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if your default printer is a PDF printer, yeah, I'll make everything in Windows, whatever you're using, but you're not gonna get all the print code capabilities of it if you wanna use print codes.
But it will give you all your PDF.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be in a character form because the print codes wouldn't be honored at that
Oh,
point.
okay, okay.
This here will honor print codes if you were to do PDF. In this sense, here I have the print code table type of fpml for filePro markup language.
Does it have to be fpml, or can you use HP laser?
It doesn't matter, well, it can't be HP laser because that's PCL
Okay,
codes.
it doesn't convert PCL
No.
to PDF.
No, it's actually got its own language. Well, I'll show you the tables of those here in a minute, but it's using its actual, the print code types. It-
Excellent
All right.
tax instead of escape.
Yeah, actually, this here is Unix, or Linux, CentOS Linux that I'm running here. I know there's a lot of people saying this is DOS only, and they got confused with the SQL stuff. When he was showing the SQL, that was on CentOS, but it does work in Windows. Anything that we're showing you, we will specifically tell you it only works in that environment if that's unique only to that environment.
But you mentioned that this is in DOS. I don't understand.
The open option is only available in character DOS for a PDF.
You can't open a PDF from Linux because typically you're going to SSH into your server. You have no way, character-based, to get that back to the client.
But-
it will open on Windows.
But if you're using GI or web and you use the pop feature, it will open up to anything you want, to any client you have there. As long as the destination is pointing to the correct place.
Yep, you can actually push it out from your terminal emulator. Then once you create the file and you know where it is, the second part of the address that you want to open, you can push it right through your terminal emulator to the PC and have it open up the same way. So
It's
it's
not
easy to
going
work
through
it
a
out.
terminal emulator. There's triggers in web and GI in order to be able to handle the messages in order to do that. Now you at the same time have that luxury to take and write it down to a file and then take and write anything you want in order to make your terminal emulator do it, then you can do that.
Yeah.
But you can't automatically launch it built in.
Yeah. I got it.
All right? Now, I'll show you the print code tables to show you why you're using a unique set. As you notice here, we have a unique set of language sets for the different things. These are the different print codes for PCL. As everybody knows, the %11, that references the line 11, which then we're setting our font size to 12. And then this line 4, we're setting that to the free mono font. That font then is pretty close to being the same as if you were to do a hard copy in filePro and to PDF, where you try to mirror those. However, you can use different fonts, but it's your own manipulation that you're going to have to deal with. As you, speaking of the fonts, you notice in this format, if you had all these fonts, we allow, is it TFF?
Yeah,
There are two type fonts that we're using here.
Does
There's
that
a,
have to be proportional?
no, you can use any true type font,
not gonna look the way
but
it
you,
expects.
it's not, you gotta remember, we're not a what you see is what you get in this aspect. So you're gonna have to do a little legwork on that in order to, if you wanna use some really fancy font and stuff like that. What we did with the free mono, that's pretty much, whatever you lay it out, it's gonna be pretty close, but anything else, you're on your own. At the moment.
Barcode font would be a common one you might use.
Yeah, exactly. But you have to deal with your own alignment. But once you got aligned, it's going to work from there on out. If you're wanting to use another font, you would say font name, and then you put in quotes the font. Now, I'll show you where those get defined in the configuration table here in a bit. You have different options through the tables. We're allowing you got your underlines, you got your sizes. These sizes, you can adjust the pixel sizes and all that here in your table. If you find that it's not lined up the way you want it, just adjust them. You got your fonts on, the movement for half steps. As you notice, I have this one here saying just under a half because it wasn't lining up with a form that I'll show you here in a little bit. And then down here we have our paper sizes. So you got your letter, your legal, and the orientation of portrait or landscape. And then it also supports color. So if you, let me see, somewhere in here there's color. Right here, the color, the attributes that you can take and see color in there. Okay. So let's take one of these forms and make one. We can also have like background overlays, and that's what I'm going to show you here. This is a little more on the fancier side here. If I can. So I'm going to use this example. I have a Word document. I got this nice, and I laid this nice little outline form on it. One of the things that you can do with a Word document, and if you want to use a scanner and make your image, feel free. It could be a JPEG or a PNG. But we do a Control A to copy.
You're dead.
Okay. Don't know what all that was about. But do a Control A and then a Control C for copy. In Word, it has this one little unique thing.
Where do you stop playing with the buttons?
Yeah.
I didn't touch it this time.
When they copy it into something like InfraView, for example, and they got to do a Control V, it just made that an image. So then you can go up and say File, and save it. Now what's going on? It wants to make a liar out of me. For some reason, let me click this. Focus. Okay, file. You can save as. And as you notice, you can create these as PNGs or a JPEG. Now, one thing to note, we do not allow transparent backgrounds. We've tried that and it went nowhere. We haven't worked on that yet, so you do make sure that you have the white background. So, let's say I'm going to save this to the desktop. And then when I close it all, now I have myself a image. Which will look similar to that. So now I have a PNG image. So what I do with this PNG image is if I go, I should probably step back and tell you where to put this image first of all. So let's go into their config file. There's a couple of variables in here that we need to point to. One, there's a whole bunch of variables you'll see here that are new. Here, this image directory is the default location for the images where they go. So for the PDF backgrounds. So this is where I would drop that image. I could specify it anywhere I want, but that's by default. I'm starting to put things under the FP Office. It's like an office folder. Then here's where the PF fonter, that specifies where the fonts go. And then in order to, your TTF fonts. In order to use a font then, you have to set up FP font underscore and then its name. When you reference it then in the print code table, you're just using the part after the underscore. And then here we have defined as, you know, a regular font, a bold font, regular italics, and so forth.
Are you worried about case sensitivity when you're like trying to request that font on the print?
You would be in Unix.
Oh yeah.
Because we're addressing whatever it's
That's a
looking for.
feature, not a bug.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one here that specifies, is that the embedded one? I think that one means embedded. That field location specifies whether or not you embed the font or not within the PDF document. So if it's a unique font, then you would want to embed it, but make sure that you have the rights to embed it too. Because if you go out and go grab a font from somebody, because not all fonts can be embedded legally. All right, so let's flip back to the form now. So I'm going to go down to my example. I got my image background. Now you could put it as a print code in your printer maintenance, and I could take and have a whole big PF or printer type with all these images in it. That's one way to do it. Or else you can literally embed it into your form itself, referencing here. So somebody had asked me, and I don't remember who, but they said, well, I'm running out of printer types, I need that increased. But just know, you can change your printer type. You can do printer type and give it another one, and then have a whole new set of printer types for that one, just on the fly if you have different backgrounds. But here we have now the image name. It's all the way here to AP. That's my location of this image. And then I tell its height. It's centered. Its height is 654 pixels by 463 pixels. Then everything else is just a normal filePro form, except for the fact of alignment. And then in here, I wanted to embed this font to be size 20. It's not my printer type, so I chose to put it here. You could put it either way. Now, how do you get those in there? You have to do an FAO for options. And you notice, make sure you have this checked as allow embedded FPLM on forms. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to put those embedded. You'll have to use the print codes.
Can you use a dummy variable and load that?
You
That whole
can,
thing
and
in
the beauty of that is I can take and have a separate image and have that as an environmental variable, or a dummy variable, and define it and say, hey, I want this one to be this variable.
Every record might have. a
Everyone
different-
could have a separate image. And I do that in order to embed like a photo into my form. I want to have a, well, like in your case, you want a piece of a photo of the real estate property each time you arrow down or whatever, and it will show you the different image for each one of those. So you can have a unique photo and everything based on your record. And I have that in another example that I'll show you as well as these. So,
What record, or what field type are you doing
field type as far as
that? You said embedding the image, how are you embedding the image?
It's just one-
all I'd have to do is put a dummy field and then in define process, and I would define that line,
Oh, okay.
and I could change its value based on processing as I go along, do record to record. So let's go back into here to show you what it looks like. Now I've already taken the pleasure of aligning it because I did not think that everybody wanted to see me going through and spacing and everything. So I have this tied to a form, and this is just, I'm running it from the DOS side. You notice that's what you get when you try to run it in character, and I'm using the pop. See, features not available outside of GI. So let's open up GI. And if you've not been familiar with GI, let me start over here with it. Okay. So it's just like your interface, just like characters as far as menus and so forth that you can go through with a few extra features. So here on my example one, I got this one with the image background. Click it. Records being updated. Watch it.
Yeah.
Gotta love it. All right, so image background, and it's still working. I don't know why. Do I have maybe I have the wrong IP address? You go.
That's where it's
I may not be using my local IP address. I may have been using because I have two NICs in here. Just a second. In order to do it on PC level, I would need an SMB share or something in order to see it. So let me just jump into web a little earlier than I wanted to. If you notice, this is the new web interface, folks. This is what it would look like when you first come in. You would have your username and password. Okay, your filePro menu. Now notice the menus over here to the side. I got these here are little informational areas that you can change. This one here is literally pointing to filePro's website. It's an external address. And then it's telling you what their latest updates are and so forth off of their one URL link. What the idea here was is that your customer, you could put your website on it in order to keep yourself looking like you're keeping your customer informed of what's going on in the world. For example, with us, we have courts and so forth. And so we would use that in order to tell them law changes and all that without having to physically go to each site in order to contact them. So this literally is looking at filePro's website. And then this one here, over here, is internal. So you can reference it. Those are just up to you. If you want to use something like that, you can change them and all that. But then you got your regular menu over on this side. So let me go into my demo again. So my F for form. my image. And there's what I was expecting. So there I have my PDF image. I got all my graphics. As you notice, I put a different font down here. That's why that says paid. It took me a little time to align that. And then I got all my cost and reports, and it would change based on whichever one I would do. So you can do this very easy. Let's say I wanted to do, as Tim was asking, can I take and use the variables? As I said, those are embedded images, PNGs or JPEGs, and there's no editing of those files. So here I have it on a report style. You notice here, in this sense, I've taken and changed the image on each one of the PDFs as they come through, and this is a report style PDF type of thing. Now, note, this PDF, each one of these is a individual document if I was to go print. It's just being displayed together. So if I go to print, notice, see, an individual PDF.
PDF or page?
Or page, excuse me. They're an individual page, but they're all showing up together in the same document. So, that's PDF. If you don't need to put the images, you don't have all that complexity of taking and saying JPEG and all that, you just normally, just a regular filePro form. Let's, for example, if I do just a hard copy of the screen, it's doing a filePro hard copy of the screen, do H for hard copy, there's the hard copy screen as that was laid out. I didn't adjust this at all, that's just the way it is, just straight out hard copy. Now, as far as the reason why didn't that work in the GI interface was because the location the image was, I didn't have it shareable for it to be accessible. If you would do that, then I would